this is our, I think it's actually our second collaboration with a university, but I was not involved in the first one. So this is the first time I'm working with this tool, and I'm speaking at a university to say. So I hope, yeah, we'll make the best out of it. I want to have you as students encouraged, and please feel free to raise your hand if you have any question, or maybe to interrupt me if something is unclear to you. I want to have this kind of a session where we all can learn something about blockchain, and especially about blockchain in the context of the Cosmos SDK. And I will introduce you to all the concepts kind of that we have in the Cosmos SDK, how to work with it, and then the tool Starport, which is made to make the life of developers easier to create their own blockchains. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to see so many attendees. And I also have with me Barry Byron and Aliaska Merchant, who are from my team at Tendermint, and they will mostly support me in the chat. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. If you want a link, they'll happily provide that for you. And yeah, so far about the introduction. So I guess I'll share my screen. So I have prepared a little presentation for you. And then afterwards, we'll jump into coding, actually. So I'm sharing my screen. Can everyone see this? How did I get the sign now? 1 second. I'll do it like this. Okay, so I have now the chat on one screen to my right side, and I'm looking at the presentation and at the camera. So feel free to use the chat or raise your hand, or just unmute yourself and speak in case you want to interrupt me. So today we'll speak about general blockchain introduction. We'll speak about Starport and the Cosmos SDK, and how to develop your own blockchain. And at Tendermint and as Cosmonauts, our main focus is building blockchains in a decentralized environment and supporting others that do the same. My name is Tobias Schwarz. I'm a manager of the ecosystem development, and I'm part of Tendermint.com, builders of the most powerful blockchain networks. In general, I'd be interested, Juan, can you help me out? Is there a way to see when people raise their hands in the chat?
Yes, you. It will make a noise. So
right?
when someone raises a hand, it will make a noise. So you'll definitely hear it.
Okay, so it's not too well for kind of making a survey on. Yes. Okay, so how many people in the participants have already worked with blockchain? Please raise your hand.
You actually have the poll option, so
I don't even know.
Actually, 4 people.
How do we do that?
Raise your hands at the bottom of the screen. You'll have camera, video,
there.
Video, audio, etc. Oh, that's cool. There's a survey. Amazing. Thank you. That's great. So I can already see around 9 to 10 people did work with blockchain before, and for some of them it seems to be very new. Great, thank you for participating. Okay, it's 16 people that didn't work with blockchain and 10 people that did work. That's amazing. Cool, great. I hope we can raise the number by people that did work with blockchain with today's workshop. And help the people to learn about Cosmos and go more into depth about their blockchain knowledge that already built. So today we will speak about what are blockchains and why are they important. We'll speak about basic understanding of the Cosmos and the Cosmos ecosystem. We will learn about Cosmos modules. We will learn about other blockchains in the ecosystem, how IBC works, and how it fosters the Internet of blockchains. What is Startport? And we will, in the end, go into a quick coding session, or also kind of observation what Startport does. We will use Startport and create a Hello World simple app by the tutorial that you can also, that we will follow, and you can also find on docs.startport.com. So first of all, what are blockchains? Blockchains are secure and decentralized distributed networks. Blockchain started with the emergence of Bitcoin in 2009, when the anonymous Satoshi Nakamoto, a lot of people already heard that name by now, has proposed a new standard for internet money. And he has created actually a great white paper that you can read that's only 9 pages long. I recommend everyone to read this. And he has condensed his innovation into 9 pages, which was amazing at the point in time. And it explains how it sets up a network of individual actors that are that don't need to ask for permission for anyone. They can join the network and download either all the data, run a node, and see all the transactions that ever happened on the network. But you could also join as a contributor in a way that you add hashing power to the network and get rewarded with Bitcoin. This concept is called proof of work, and it's a lot of people have heard about this right now. And we are at Cosmos are using a different consensus mechanism that's called proof of stake, and I will explain how this works in the later slides. What's great about this blockchain is it provides immutable networks. This means once a transaction hits the network and is confirmed in a block, it can't be reversed. And this data immutability is extremely important on the internet, because everyone probably has experienced some way of scamming on the internet. It happens actually quite a lot, and making a transaction and reversing it is a big part of scamming networks, and this is why this is important for a digital money network or digital cash network. Blockchains have introduced scarcity into the web and into the internet. By scarcity, so it started with Bitcoin. You can have a Bitcoin, and you can actually own this Bitcoin when you have a so-called private key in your hands. And as long as you're the only person in the world who owns these Bitcoin belong to you. As soon as you share it, you're also sharing the access to this Bitcoin, and anyone that has access could send it away. But for me, scarcity, yeah, that's actually a mind-blowing application, because before blockchain emerged, data wasn't scarce, really. You had to close your computer really off the internet to have some sort of scarcity, so your data doesn't get leaked or anything. But on blockchain, you can actually, in a way, prove ownership of data. You can own data, and it started with Bitcoin, but it's now many, many more tokens. Tokens were the first really application with Bitcoin, with Ethereum, and various other tokens where people could actually own them and trade them on the internet. And now, in recent years, what's actually really popping up is something called NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. And they act actually in the same way, like, for example, Ethereum, but they divided. So an NFT is a token that represents usually one object. And a lot of times this is artwork. This is what we are seeing mostly in the recent days. But it can be anything. It can be real estate. It can be tied to an identity. there is a lot of innovation possible with NFTs. It's not been used that much. It's mostly theoretical, but in art, it's used a lot these days. On blockchain, each transaction will get verified. And we on blockchains, we are using a public key infrastructure. So this is changing. The public key infrastructure is changing the way the web works. In the first 20, 30 years of the web, people would have a central database, a user login, a name and a password. And this was also wildly abused, because as soon as that database was hacked, people would have access to everything, to every account on that. On blockchain infrastructure, it works different. When you hack a database, the private key is not written in any central database. This is usually written on any person's computer, so or you can actually write it on a piece of paper, put it in a safe, and have it secure there. So there's a lot of ways how to handle a private key. Also, hardware wallets such as Ledger or Trezor are a great way to store private keys. And you'd have to kind of hack everyone in the network to get access to everything on the network. And this is impossible to hack every person in the world, kind of, at least to my knowledge. As soon as you create a transaction, you can sign that with your private key and send away, for example, a token or an NFT, and all will get verified cryptographically by the blockchain network. Another great point, I think, for which is highly relevant for blockchains, is blockchains are permissionless. With permissionless, I mean you don't have to ask in order to participate. You can download the software, which is most of the time source, especially for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and also Cosmos the case. And you can start a node from there and just get started. Receive your first tokens, create a service on top of the API or on top of the RPC, and just get started. And this is what I like so much about blockchain. It doesn't differentiate between who is who or kind of what status you have. You can just get started. It's the same rules for everyone around the world. The only thing you need is a computer and internet access. So what is the Cosmos SDK? It is a framework for creating blockchains. You can, it is purposely written so that it makes creating new blockchains easier. And our idea behind the Cosmos SDK is to have multiple application-specific blockchains. Imagine maybe you are familiar with Ethereum, which is one big blockchain and hosts smart contracts from everyone around the world. And every app that is hosted on Ethereum uses the same ledger, the same blockchain, the same database in order to try to solve. The problem behind this is eventually they are competing for throughput. Eventually they are competing to get into blocks, and this raises transaction fees on the network. And for the last years, were in a range that wouldn't allow any app to be hosted on Ethereum, because it would just be too costly to record any transaction on the network for, let's say, 20 to 60 US dollars. So our solution is we let people write their blockchains, we let them have their own rules, and especially if you have an application that wants to support many transactions from different actors, then it makes most sense to create your own blockchain and have your own fees on that blockchain. You can define various tokens on your blockchain that you want to host. You can define your business logic. It only does this and doesn't host 2 million other smart contracts. So this is our idea how to scale blockchains eventually, because we are seeing scalability problems on various networks already. In my mind, blockchain is just getting started in the world. So I think there will be many, many more users coming, and also machines that are also using the blockchain. And we hope to solve the scalability and throughput problem with the Cosmos SDK. But the Cosmos SDK is not working alone. On the base layer, we have Tendermint Core, which is a software that provides kind of, how I see it, is all the hard stuff around blockchain, which is networking, so that every server, every node that actually runs the software can find that do the same on the internet. So they gossip around who is participating in consensus, who is participating in downloading blocks, who has blocks available for others to download. And the networking part is something you only want to deal with when you have a couple of developers at your hand already and want to create a new networking approach. But with Tendermint, we've tried our best to make this as solid as possible. The same with the consensus mechanism or the cryptography behind the blockchain. And all these things are kind of managed by Tendermint Core, which is used by the Cosmos SDK. And this is something you don't have to deal with if you don't want to. You can just use this as it is. On top of Tendermint sits the state machine, the application, a modular approach to handle data and how to validate data, and which data are actually acceptable for your blockchain and which are not, and what might a user have to do in order to write data onto the blockchain. And all these parts eventually make a blockchain node, which is a server running your blockchain, your application. They will run Tendermint Core on the bottom, but they won't notice. They'll just run your application, and all this is included. So, we are speaking about modularity. So, as I've just explained, Tendermint takes care of networking, cryptographic, basic validation, consensus. And the Cosmos SDK sits on top of this and hosts modules that you can choose and develop for your blockchain. So there's a variety of modules already available in the official Cosmos SDK repository. Let me quickly show this to you. GitHub. Many people are here are familiar with GitHub as developers. I hope you are, because I love the tool. I think it's the best tool for syncing development, also kind of recording your history and what you've done, going back and forth between versions, etc. So GitHub is extremely important to use when you're creating your own app. You can use other version control systems, but for me, GitHub is currently the gold standard. This is the Cosmos SDK repository. One interesting part to look into is if you scroll down and you look into the X directory. This is official modules, and on here you already see a bunch of modules. And these modules are written by a variety of actors in the ecosystem, where Tendermint, the company we work with, is a part. And you can kind of, if you create a new blockchain, you can pick which of those modules you want to use on your blockchain. Something like auth for authentication. You usually want to use that on your application because you want to identify and have people authenticate on your application with their public and private keys and sign transactions. The bank module, for example, is there for you to send tokens, receive tokens. In general, this is token management on a blockchain. So maybe you're writing a blockchain that doesn't need its own token, then you just go without the bank module, and there's no way for people to send tokens on that blockchain. You can read about all the modules in our documentation as well on docs.starboard.com. No, this is docs.cosmos.network, and you'll find all the different explanation of what all the modules do. Let me go also a bit. We do have an NFT module, for example, if you want to work with NFTs. an interesting concept for a blockchain is slashing. I will explain this later. But also staking, which is for staking tokens on a blockchain. So this is proof of stake, where you can already have token and you can accrue more via in terms of the longer you hold it, the more tokens you will accrue. And this is how the modules directory looks like. Feel free to check this out. There's a lot to learn. When you're looking into creating your own module, this is a good starting place. I think, for example, the governance module is one which is extremely well documented, and this would allow people to submit proposals on a blockchain and everyone to be able to vote with their token. The more token you have, the more your vote counts. And this is being used a lot in kind of public blockchains in order to make decisions for either some of the parameters of the blockchain or just to get a signal from the community or from the users and investors of where they want the blockchain to go in the future. I see questions in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself and just talk also. This is always possible. So let me present this again, but I think I'll go into the code in a bit as well, because there is a certain structure for each module. So the role of a module in the Cosmos SDK is it handles the state of the blockchain. So to write data to your key value store, which is basically a database that we use, then you need to go through a module which directly sets the rules for how data can be written to the database. And it will hold your application logic. It will have certain logics that you are looking for. And we can look into this in a bit in the code directly. But you can embed in your module your application logic with the state handling, and then people can use certain commands or a front end in order to execute transactions that you want people to use. A module is always this might be flexible, but what we're using is mostly the main components of a Cosmos SDK module is buffer files, which explain the data format that you're going to use. It has a directory where you can define all the types in Golang and how they should look like on your blockchain. It has a handler on which transactions and messages are possible in your module. It has a keeper, which defines the database logic and what is allowed to be stored on the blockchain and what is not, and a client, which is for the user to use. And so let's jump back into the code and, for example, look into Go. And in here, you will also find exactly this structure. You will have a client which defines, let's not go into this code, but we'll in the workshop later when we go into the code, you'll see this. The client describes how the user interacts with the app. The types describe on all the types that you will use in your module, and you'll have usually, it's not in here. Let's look into another. Now, I shouldn't take around all, but our own blockchain that we'll scaffold later. And the proto definition is actually something you would find on the top level of the repository. In here, you find a proto directory with Cosmos. And in here, you have defined all the data formats. So if you, for example, look into the Cosmos and then bank module into the proto, there is a beta directory, and then the tx.proto would define messages you could send, for example, in the bank module, or you could also multi-send to various people at once. And those are the messages available in the bank module. And this is how you would describe it. And later you can also describe all sorts of kind of query formats, how to query a blockchain, which queries are available to users. This is handy for especially apps that want to use your blockchain or services that you have nice queries available for your blockchain. The Cosmos ecosystem is already quite used and quite available. So I would separate it in actually two different spheres that are working with the Cosmos SDK. One of operate blockchains, which is, for example, IBM, SoftBank, or Binance Smart Chain, who work with Cosmos. IBM is working with smart contracts. They're using EVM and WASM on their blockchain. We have a SoftBank who's researching CBDCs, and Binance Smart Chain, which is a decentralized exchange on top of Cosmos. But we also have a great community that are creating modules, and this is something, looking to create your own module, I would also recommend to check out various actors and what they are working on, because we have, for example, projects like Ethermint, which is actually rebranding these days to EVMOS. And what they did is EVM, which is the Ethereum virtual machine, into a Cosmos module that you can now use on your blockchain if you want to. And this kind of mirrors what Ethereum is doing. If you put the EVM module into your blockchain, you have an Ethereum blockchain as well, because you can work with the same tools that Ethereum provides. And you will write your smart contracts in Solidity and can work just like with Ethereum. Cosmos WASM has a little bit of different approach. It's also about smart contracts on your blockchain, and they have created the WASM module, which will allow you to write WebAssembly smart contracts on your blockchain. So these are written in Rust, and Rust is becoming a very popular language for smart in the last year. And you might have heard of projects such as Solana, who are also doing the same thing. And on Cosmos, this would be the WASM module that you can kind of add to your blockchain, and you'll have a similar blockchain to what Solana is doing. We have projects such as Akash, who are creating a cloud computing network with the Cosmos SDK. We have a blockchain called Terra, which works with decentralized finance and smart contracts. And they have really interesting concept around being able to trade stocks on a blockchain or stablecoin tokens. So very interesting applications. We have Osmosis, which is tapping also into decentralized exchange and DeFi, and allow for pools to be created and people to trade on that blockchain various tokens. Eventually, they are trading IBC tokens, which is a kind of the killer concept in my mind for Cosmos, the IBC, which I will explain in a bit. Then we have blockchains like Secret, which work all around privacy. They try to make blockchains as private as possible to maintain privacy on the internet, which is usually great for not getting leaked or for not getting followed if you don't want to. Then we have a project called Persistence, which actually work with NFTs, but not in the art sector. This is why I find this a very interesting project. They actually work with NFTs in real estate and these sort of areas. It's very exciting to see them progress in the coming months. If you want to check out more what the ecosystem is doing, go to cosmos.network/ecosystem. Thanks, Javier. I just read your input. And the question is if I can talk about Cosmos language agnosticism later in the course. So yeah, it's a good question. With the Cosmos SDK, we are kind of a bit bound to Go, because everything on here on the Cosmos SDK is written in Go. Although the Tendermint, if we go back to that slide, the Tendermint core software you can use with all the languages that you have mentioned. So you could use Java or you could use Rust. So if we quickly go to look into docs.tendermint.com, you will find all the documentation around Tendermint. And I think on here, let me find this up real quick. Yeah, if you look into guides, you'll first start with creating a built-in application in Go. but there's also already some documentation on how to create an application in Java or in Kotlin. Many others are possible. I've also seen, I'm not sure if I've seen Python though. I've seen applications that work with Sdk and use Python or JavaScript and other languages, and which is totally fine. But kind of if we're talking about a new blockchain with modules, then and the Cosmos SDK, then we're currently bound to go. But you can use parts of these in other programming languages. Does this solve already some of your curiosity, Javier? Eventually, the Cosmos has a booming ecosystem. In the last years, it has grown incredibly. And on here, this is a great infographic from Coin98, and they have they are showing us what's all here. We have a lot of applications already written in finance. We have a lot of companies working in infrastructure or building services or taking care of privacy, which are open source and open databases can be increasingly important in the coming years, and a lot of projects that already work with smart contracts. So I've already introduced you to Ethermint and Cosmosen. Ethermint will be rebranding to EVMOS, so make sure you look into these. So EVMOS, the term you want to look for if you want to create a blockchain with the EVM, and they are having a great progress as well. So let's go into interconnectedness, because creating your own blockchain, it doesn't stop there. And this is, for me, kind of one of the most interesting parts about Cosmos. A lot of teams together have worked on a protocol which is called the Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol. And what this does is it allows to create channels between two blockchains. It allows for an exchange of packets between those blockchains, so that you can transfer, for example, tokens, or it's meant to be as generalistic as possible, so you can actually create modules that transmit any sort of data. And currently we have this went live in February this year. So every blockchain that's being started now, for example, with Starport, that would have IBC already enabled, and other blockchains couldn't make a connection to your blockchain if they want to. So if you start a regular blockchain with Starport, then you can already make a connection to all the blockchains that also have the IBC protocol enabled. And since this went live in February, not all the blockchains in the ecosystem of Cosmos have this yet, but the majority, and most of the projects are trying to integrate it as soon as they can. So the IBC is a module, just like other modules. So you could kind of exclude it from your blockchain if you wanted to, but you can also add it just like any other module on your blockchain, and then you'd have the possibility to connect to all the other blockchains in the ecosystem. And the IBC is one of the modules. Another module, for example, is the IBC transfer. So you can have them separately, or you can have them both. If you only have IBC, it would allow for creating channels between two blockchains. If you also have the transfer, you can directly start sending tokens. And this is how more or less the concept works like. So let's imagine you have tokens on blockchain A and don't have them on blockchain B, but you want to have them on blockchain B. Then you lock your tokens on blockchain A. You tell blockchain B that you have tokens with the IBC module, and that want a representation of those on blockchain B, and you would receive eventually something we call voucher tokens on IBC. Those get identified by their denomination. So a denomination is what we call a token name. So on the most used blockchain in the Cosmos ecosystem, which is the Cosmos Hub, which uses a ticker called Atom, the denomination is just called UAtom, or which actually stands for mu-atom. If you have, I think it is, let's say it's digits. So if you have a million U atom, then you have actually one atom. And U atom is the denomination on chain A. You would send tokens to chain B, then you would receive a token that's called something like IBC / followed by a hash. And this hash describes the path a token might have taken in the ecosystem. So your Voucher tokens are not kind of closed on blockchain B. You could send it from blockchain B to blockchain C to blockchain D, etc. So your tokens could travel all along the ecosystem, and all this path is described in this hash of the token denom on a blockchain. And if you want to reverse this, if you want to go back from blockchain B to blockchain A, burn the tokens on the Voucher tokens on blockchain B and unlock them again on blockchain A. This is how the process of sending tokens between blockchain works. And the IBC network is all taking on. So we already have a couple of blockchain instances joined the network. And on here, what you see on the right-hand side is a representation from the website called mapofzones.com. And on there, you can find a real-life representation of the IBC protocol, how all the blockchains are interconnected with each other. You can see the exchange of data between various blockchains in real life. You can also see statistics on how many transactions have been created already and sent over IBC. And yeah, it's been a huge success since February. More than, I think, 2 million transactions have already been sent over IBC from various blockchains to other blockchains. And it's just getting started. It's not even a year, and we already have the first millions of transactions. People are using this a lot. And I think this actually fulfills the dream of application-specific blockchains, that kind of each of them lives sovereign, independent, but can be connected to other blockchains that do the same. But and usually you want to have a connection between the blockchains, and this is what everyone is looking for. This is kind of the reason why we have a very strong centralized in the ecosystem right now with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other blockchains. And so these exchanges might get obsolete as soon as DeFi and interconnected blockchains take on. Yeah, for me, this connection is an amazing tool. So feel free to check out mapofzones.com to get a bit more of content and context. So so much about. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me, or we will probably have a bit of time at the end about a bit of Q&A. What is Starport? Starport is a command line interface that offers everything you need to build, test, and launch with a decentralized worldwide community. Starport is built on top of Cosmos Sdk, the world's most popular blockchain framework. And Starport accelerates chain development by scaffolding everything you need so you can focus on your business logic. Does is you can scaffold new blockchains, and we will do this in a bit. You can, with Starport, you can create new data types and messages. You can add your application logic and run and test that blockchain you've just created with Starport, and eventually deploy to production. So this is not something Starport handles for you at the moment. This is planned for the coming in the next year, so you can deploy your blockchain to production with Starport. But what Starport will give you when you're working with it and create a new blockchain with your application logic is everything you already need to deploy your blockchain. You just need then actors in our proof of stake system that are happy to kind of validate the blockchain for you, and this is all you need. And then a Genesis block which kind of describes the first state of your blockchain, and then you're set to launch your own blockchain. So yeah, I guess the walkthrough won't take too long. So I think we have 2 or 3 minutes before I jump into this for questions, if you have any. I see it's already quite active. I see bridges. Bridges are needed. So this is what we call actually Peggy zones. So with IBC, as you see, you have this modular approach. You add the IBC module and probably the IBC transfer module, and you can make a connection to all the blockchains that do have this. But let's say, for example, Bitcoin, they don't use the IBC module. So there will need to be kind of a data format change, and we can't use the same logic for creating Voucher tokens on Bitcoin so that you can send your token to Bitcoin. And so what will happen instead is that there will probably be, and this doesn't exist yet, but there are some actors that are looking into this, and it's hopefully coming actually. I think the first one has maybe already launched, but it should be very close that the first projects go live with this. And so they will create a zone, so something, its own blockchain that will application logic only defined for this, for recording transactions on the Bitcoin network or validating transactions from the Bitcoin network, and vice versa. And this zone then should allow it to kind of interact with Bitcoin directly and be open as written with the Cosmos Sdk to the whole ecosystem again. All right, if you have any further questions, write in the chat or just unmute yourself. So let's jump into a simple app. Let's use Starport to say hello, and we will learn. I will show you how to install Starport. I have already installed on my machine, but I'll show you how where you get that information, how to scaffold a blockchain. We'll talk a little bit about the folder structure, as we already did, about the Genesis file and config YAML, and we'll run a blockchain and then add a query. So I hope you can see my screen well. I've tried to make the font readable. I hope this works for you. I am in my terminal. I'm using a Mac. In my experience, it works best on Mac and Linux. If you're a Windows user, you want to get a similar POSIX-like feature for Windows, so everything works really well. But it should be working with Windows, but with Starport, you might experience the one or other problem. So you can also consider running a virtual machine within your Windows and use Linux on there, so everything works smoothly. So yeah, what we want to look at is actually Starport docs, and on here, on the left-hand side, you will find developer tutorials. They will find an introduction, and then the next point is install Starport. And on here, you get all the information that you'd need to install Starport. What I'm using most of the time is this command. I'll post it in the chat if you want to use this. Not sure if I understand these comments in the chat, but yeah, feel free to ask any questions if you have them. But this command should work fine, and just install it on your machine. And then eventually, if everything is installed, you can check this with Starport version, and it will tell you that you're on version 0. Yeah, and all the details that are mostly important when you're running into problems and asking for help. So this is something you should share, so people that are supporting you know which version you're on. This is mostly important, but also on kind of which machine you're doing this. So let's look into the Hello World tutorial. And on here, I just thought this is actually quite easy tutorial, I think, but scaffolding the blockchain is for me the most exciting part, and we'll just do it after this. So we will have another session in 2 weeks where my colleague, who's also here today, Ali, will go a little bit more into depth of code. The goal for today is to give you a little bit of kind of introduction into the ecosystem, what the Cosmos Sdk does, and how it's supposed to work, and all the modularity of it. So I think that's really strong if you want to check out other open source projects, and the ecosystem is mostly open source. Only kind of the company actors are not, and feel free to read that code and jump into the modules that have been written. They all follow very similar structure. Start to understand one, you probably start to understand all the modules in the ecosystem. How to start a new blockchain with Starport is with using the command Starport scaffold chain. And what you have afterwards, this is especially important for the Go part. So it works with modules as well. And this is how you would describe kind of your blockchain. And this part is something Go uses in their dependencies if someone wants to use part of your code in their application. So you'd want to describe, you want to add here github.com, and this would be your username. So Cosmonaut is kind of a fixed username that we've taken in this context, and then the name of your blockchain project. And we are just using hello for our hello world example. And what happens if I press enter is it goes into scaffolding. It creates the whole folder structure that I need for a new blockchain. So this will take a while because it's a couple of directories and files that will be created for me. So it might take a minute. Meanwhile, I'll have a look at if there's any questions. Yeah, when I read the chat, something you might want to check out as well. So if you're on yeah, I don't want to say bad things about Windows, but the experience is that Windows users have a bit more problems than others. So you can also run Starport in a web-based Gitpod IDE. So this is extremely similar to VS Code. And so if with this link, I'm getting to the Starport repository, and on here I can click on Gitpod, and this will launch a new instance for me. This is a server that that would run Starport in an IDE, so actually develop on the web. So for everyone who maybe you don't have enough resources on your machine, just use Gitpod to get working. But it will display the same stuff as I'll show you. Just wanted to show the path how to get here. And time is running quick, I just noticed. So so let's resume with our Hello World example. So this is how it looks like when you've scaffolded your blockchain. So it tells me it's successfully creating a new blockchain hello, and how to get started. So first we need to see into hello, then I can open up my IDE. Oh, it actually had it already open. So this is it, and on here you find a directory structure that includes an app, and on here you can see the app.go file. The app.go file wires together, so let me increase this, wires together your application. So it's responsible for the RPC, it's responsible for all the modules. In here you will find description of the modules. So you, for example, the auth module, which comes with a keeper, with a REST interface, with transaction and types, and this is how you would include it into an application. And later on, they will be wired together in an app. So if you want to learn more about this, that's written in the application, in the documentation. But what I usually do is, for example, I just copy the bank keeper. I search for it in the document, and this is kind of the data storage for the bank module. And on here, I could see, okay, where everywhere is this? Because I don't know everything, all of these kind of items from scratch, and how to use them. And this is an extremely great reference for me if I want to add new modules. This is I could follow kind of the standards that I've already done in the app.go file to include in the module. We also have a commands interface, which is responsible for the command line interface commands, but won't use this one. We have provided docs, so you can write your own documentation, and then proto buffer definitions. So on here, you would describe how your how data on your blockchain would look like. You also have a view application, so there's a front end coming with Starport with a new blockchain directly for you. But most interesting is the X with your new module, which is also the Hello module. And in here you find the data structure that I've just explained. We have the client, which is actually the that you can later use. We have the keeper, which is for data storage, and we have the types, which are for validation or for codecs and keepers you want to use in your blockchain. And then we have the handler, which would describe new commands that are available on and new messages and transactions that you can use on your blockchain. So after scaffolding a blockchain, the next step would be to run it. Yeah, let's try that. So I actually we are very short on time. I hope we have a bit time to also do Q&A in the end. But if we do a Starport chain serve, this is the command to run that blockchain. So as you see, we are in the hello directory that we've just created. And with Starport chain serve, I'm running that blockchain. And Starport will handle a couple of things in the back for me. So if you've described your data format, for example, in the protobuffer file, you want to have it available in your Go module application. And they are building these proto files and translating them into Go so you can use them. So you might know that proto buffers are kind of its own language, so that data formats can be described and then ported to various languages. And then it helps us installing dependencies, building a binary and a daemon, and eventually, yeah, Barry.
Would it be okay to share a read-only link to your presentation from today? Somebody's asking.
It's totally okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'll paste the link in.
Thank you. And what's meant by initializing the app is what I've told you about earlier. This is creating a Genesis file. This is creating a new directory where all the configuration for your application is. What Starport also does, it creates two kind of default accounts, Alice and Bob, with mnemonics. So these are the passwords. These are usually words as your private key, as your seed. Yeah, this relates to the following address, starting with Cosmos. And these are things like which accounts, how they are named, how much token they own, and all these parameters can be added to your root. So if you scaffolded like me, the hello blockchain, which sits in the hello directory, you have a config YAML file. And in here, it would describe exactly what I've just showed you. There's Alice and there's Bob. We have one validator, which is Alice. It can describe the tokens, how many tokens you have. Also a faucet, which is very helpful if you're working with other developers who want to have a few tokens for testing, all these kind of things. This is where you can describe a lot of details about how your application should be configured, or also how your blockchain should be configured in terms of validators or tokens. You could just remove token from here. So right now there exists like 30,000 token on this blockchain. If I delete this, there would be no token on the blockchain, and it would only have a denom called stake. And I could add, if I wanted to, just like this, I want a lot of Toby coin, and this would kind of create a new coin on my blockchain with Toby coin, and Starport would handle the rest. And we are sadly quickly running out of time. I want to do a couple of things more with you, but I think I've just talked a little bit too much here and there. So I guess we skipped the query part, but we have gone through most of the details. Eventually we will. Am I still here?
You're still there, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Great. Because it says reconnecting on my slides, I thought I lost the internet connection. Thank you, Barry. yeah, we will share the slides with you, so you can look also into resources and learning. You can learn about what is Cosmos. You can look into the tutorials, sign up for Starport updates, follow the Starport HQ Twitter account. This is where you'd get all the details about Starport. And yeah, we are very curious in what you will build. I hope you've got a first impression, a good impression about Cosmos and what it's supposed to do, where it sits in kind of the whole blockchain system. A little bit of advertisement. I'm not owner anymore of this slide. If you want to actually apply something already, if you're curious, want to build an application, in next week on Thursday, on November 11th, we have the Hack Atom 6 starting. There will be great prizes for people that build on top of Cosmos SDK. You can reach atom.org, but also join our Discords. We have 2 Discords, one for Cosmos in general and one for Starport, where we will try to support you as good as we can. Also follow us, Tendermint team at Cosmos. And if you're looking for a job, we are also hiring. And maybe after you started your Turing, just send us your resume. We'll be happy to receive it. And I guess, yeah, that's about time. I still have a couple of minutes more left, so I think we can dive into Q&A. Just want to close this now on time, as we've said, 3 p.m. Argentinian time is kind of closing. Thanks everyone for being here and for attending, and I hope you could enjoy this workshop. Any questions from the audience?
Hi, Tobias.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for the great session.
You're welcome.
This is Sonia.
Ah, hi, Sonia.
Hi.
Great. Sonia is also from my team in Tendermint. Great to see you. Okay.
Hi, Tobias. Catalina here.
Hi.
It was a great,
Hi.
great chat. Thank you so much for being here with everybody. With Hanuma, we were very happy to do this together. It's very interesting for us to do something in English for the first time. So thank you so much from connecting.
Is it usually cool?
From wherever
Do you
you
usually have
are.
it in Spanish?
Excuse me?
Do you usually do the workshops in Spanish?
Yes, we do most of our workshops in Spanish because our audience is mostly from Argentina or Latin America.
Great. También yo hablo español, pero en workshops sería un poco más.
Juanma told me you're from Germany, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Are you there right now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, that's amazing. It's so crazy how everything's so interconnected right now with the pandemic.
I agree. Yes, it's so amazing that I can do a workshop for you in Buenos Aires, sitting here in Germany. Yes, I'm also still amazed about this. And yeah, but eventually I lived in Buenos Aires for more or less 1.5 years. So this country and also university is a bit of close to my heart, and this is why I wanted to do this workshop, especially here.
That's why your Spanish is so good.
Yeah, and people, yeah, when I go to Spain, people notice the Argentinian accent.
Oh, that's amazing.
Always
That's
ask me for
amazing.
that. Yeah.
You have the Argentinian accent. Most people don't learn Spanish with the Argentinian accent.
Yes, that's true. And I was in Buenos Aires. I lived in Lomas de Zamora, and so the sh is very hard in these parts. So yeah, but it was a great experience. I loved the city and the country.
Great, great. So if everybody stays a bit, Juanma's going to be giving away some POAPs. I've never pronounced POAP in English. Is it pronounced correctly? POAP.
What is this?
Juanma, if you can explain.
Yes. Hello, I was in the chat. I'm sending now everyone privately a link to claim this. They are NFTs, like, yes, they are NFTs. And
Cool.
they are called POAP, POAP, Proof of Attendance Protocol. And we
Nice.
give them to everyone that stayed all the way. So yes, if you wait, you'll receive a message in your private chat, and we'll be sending them.
Awesome. Great idea. I've seen a question on how operating system agnostic the Cosmos SDK is. And yeah, it should run on BSD, and usually as long as it's POSIX, it should work fine. So yeah, that should be good. Gerne.